Okay. Buenos tardes. I know two things. So this afternoon we're going to talk about marketing. And I would tell you that this is probably a topic that is somewhat cultural. So a lot of what I'm going to talk about is somewhat more on a philosophical plane, because as far as the details and exactly what you do, you know your community best and you know your customers best. But everything we do when we make decisions at Redmond, we understand that typically we think that how we practice medicine represents our reputation and our sincerity and our trustworthiness. But in fact, everything you do does that, and as a result, everything you do is really marketing. Everything you do is marketing. How you handle the telephones. So when we think about conventional marketing, how do we let people know we exist? We want that marketing decision to represent what we want our reputation to be. How we want the public to see us as people who work in the company. And it doesn't matter if your business is 5 people or 500 people or 20 people. You always have to remember that external marketing, number one, is to get people to come. But human nature says they will also make some judgment about who you are and what you're like. So that's an important issue for us. But maybe culture that's different, I don't think so, but maybe that's different for you. But most of the most valuable marketing we've done has not been expensive, has not taken a marketing department, but we just answer the question, what will people recognize? Because again, we live in a world that people out in the U.S., and I'm sure here too, because what makes people think, what else are you going to do for me, is being overcrowded. And you have a lot of veterinarians. So human nature hasn't changed. You hear a lot of repetition from this morning. Economy and politics changes all the time, always to the worse usually, but we have no control of that. And so you shouldn't spend a lot of time and energy going, oh my God, the taxes are too high, this is like, you need to solve problems for your business, because you're not going to change that. Well, maybe we can, but not anytime soon. For the first time, I think we can all agree that world economics has impacted all of us. Our recession that we had in the 1980s had no impact on Europe that I'm aware of. I wasn't really paying attention either back then. But today's economy has really impacted all of us. And so that brings our community a little bit closer together, as we're kind of experiencing those same issues. Everybody wants to make more money. Something that has never changed. People want more for less. But the question is, what do they want more of? And sometimes it's just service, not just what are the prices. And this goes back to the question this morning about lowering prices, raising prices. In the U.S., raising prices, I think, should probably be coming to an end, if not slowing down, because we've overdone it. Some of these things may not directly correlate to marketing to you or classical marketing, but they actually are. You need to know what's happening in Spain, in your community. You need to understand the pros and the cons. One of the things that drive me crazy, especially back home, because that's where I'm from the U.S., is veterinarians are inevitably on the wrong side of an issue. That stems back from our discussion this morning. We look at everything from our own viewpoint as a business owner, with an analytical mind, a scientific mind, rather than, let me mentally step out of this, and as a citizen of Spain, how do I view this? How do I view this? An example. When we first opened our business, we started seeing the startups of low-cost spay clinics, a lot of shelter medicine, and it wasn't very fashionable for veterinarians to help. Veterinarians took the wrong side of this issue. But you have to admit, if you took yourself out of your hospital and into the civilian world, you would have to tell yourself a low-stake clinic is a good thing. But what we did as a profession said, well, it's bad for me. The purpose I bring this up, we do this in smaller issues all the time. We focus on what somebody's doing that we think is impacting us rather than working with the issue and making plans in our strategy to offset that or join it. And one of the things I've learned, if you make the right decision because you think it's the right thing for the patient or for the client, and your colleagues are against you, I guarantee you in 6 months you'll be doing exactly what you did. I guarantee it to the day. I've been through that process over and over again. It's doing something that no one else has done, been criticized for it, only to find that 6 months later, maybe 5 months, 6 months, somebody else is doing it. They're playing defense, I'm playing offense. So, you may not have traditionally thought this as marketing, but being on the right side of a public issue is the best marketing. You know how much it costs? Zero. You know how much impact it has? More than anything you can spend money on. Think as a person first and apply your assessment to your business to make it successful. It is a form of marketing, and one that has worked well for us over the years. We deal with every shelter in New Jersey now. We take care of every service dog in New Jersey. Actually, New York City as well. All the bomb dogs, port authority dogs, they all come to us because we made a decision to help them out because we thought it was not appropriate to charge these people more money because they were government-paid animals. Do you know how much marketing we get from the police officers and the inspection officers that say, go to Red Bank because they're good people? It doesn't cost us a penny. Yeah, we discount their cases. When you look at the numbers, their revenues are tiny compared to the big revenues of the hospital. So it's money well spent. So all marketing isn't about advertising in the papers and billboards and that kind of thing. This is very controversial, and I will tell you that many people in the U.S. don't agree with me on this. Having told you that everything you do is truly marketing, every action, every word is coming back to shape and form who you are as a business. The most important thing, well, the most valuable thing we all have that we have less of every day of our life is time. Can't get that back. And anything that you can do to respect your client's time is marketing. Why? Because the reverse is negative marketing. Doing advertising, doing promotions to make them come in more often, they're not stupid. You know, one of the conversations I had I think with Perry is surveys are never accurate. They're not. They're accurate inside the perfect world in the participant's mind of the survey. But it's not what they do. For example, the survey that says that location is the most important thing, I never agree with. But it's always top on the list. Why is it top on the list? Because when someone does a survey and they see all the answers, and they see that one of the answers is great veterinary care, subconsciously, no, well, I'm going to pick that too, so I don't have to worry about location. So if I can have both, location becomes very important. The fact of the matter is, in the real world, the best hospital may not be next door to that client. And I'm embarrassed to tell you this, the only reason I picked my location is because it's where I got fired. Nobody in the world would build a hospital that size where I live. Surrounded by competition. Competition that was referral only, by the way. And this is referral in general practice. and in not a densely populated part of New Jersey, with somewhat of a transient population because of summer, winter. And so, yeah, our clients come from Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware. That's not the norm, but it's possible. Because the number one, although people tell you it's great medicine, they don't have a clue that it's great medicine. What they know is that from the minute they walk in, or the minute they call on the phone to the minute they walk in the door, they're getting a really good service. So respect people's time. You know, one thing you can work on right away is make sure nobody's waiting to see you. You know, we have this mentality as doctors that we don't want to be waiting. We don't want to wait. We go to the doctors, but it seems like it's okay that we let our clients wait. So, too many veterinarians have that same problem. Price increasing. For a time it was good. Price increasing is very bad if that's your strategy. Price increasing, as we'll talk about, without giving people something more for their money, will be a huge failure. Maybe not right away, but in the future. It's way more expensive to do business now, right? Equipment, computers, software. I mean, some of you haven't, I can say some of you are not old enough to know that at the time there were no computers and those things. So the cost of doing business has grown dramatically. Shelter medicine is very big in the U.S. We actually have specialty programs to train doctors to work in shelter medicine. And in the next 10 years, we're going to see many full hospitals in shelters. The sad part of that is some of the motive for that is to generate money. And I don't think they're all aware that it's hard to make a lot of money in a full-service hospital nowadays. So we have that. We have more veterinarians. We have our schools are increasing the number of students so they can make more money. Wrong motivation, wrong decision. And I can spend 3 days giving you wrong decisions because of wrong motivation, even though the goal is the same, is to be more successful. So these are important things to understand when you're thinking about marketing. You know, I put down, I'm a car person. So, you know, we've gone from being the Fiat of the world to the Ferrari of the world. I was trying to come up with a Spanish car, but I really couldn't. So I picked those. And so we have to offer those services, and you have understood that already. But the big thing is the choice. So what the marketing has to look at is knowing that your client has multiple choices of places to go. So I kind of repeated some of this, and I laid this out for you, because the only thing we have left that we can do that's an appropriate thing to do, meaning ethical thing to do, is we need to learn how to focus on building volume. We can't resort to price increases all the time. You probably know that better than we do. We have to have strategies that make more people want to come to our business, but we also have to have strategies that improve our value. Because if we don't, as I said this morning, it's a quicker route to entrepreneurial suicide. So, what are some of the ways that we try to build volume through marketing? Understanding that we consider everything we do marketing. I'm not a marketing person. I am sure you have people in marketing in your areas that can help you with traditional marketing. I probably won't spend a lot of time on traditional marketing today because that's pretty easy. I'm not a big fan of it anymore because we're not selling refrigerators. We're taking care of people's animals that they love very much. That's the assumption I'm going on. Otherwise, they would be spending money if they didn't care about their pets. So for me, there are 3 stages or 3 levels or 3 kinds of building volume. There's a volume that we all know about is these things that make people say, oh, let me try that clinic. Let me go to that clinic. That's one phase of marketing. And I think they're all important, all 3. The most important one is marketing, doing things that retain those clients. So getting someone to come to your place is pretty easy. I mean, you can do things that I wouldn't consider ethical, but it would get them to the door. The trick is, when they leave, I can't wait to go back there. So the retaining clients is slower. It's not going to happen in 24 hours. Word of mouth kind of stuff. But it's sustainable. It's reproducible. It doesn't get old. It's not a gimmick. A lot of getting people in the door can be gimmicks, but it's not sustainable. And as you see, long-term strategies have more to do with your ability and the least important. So some basic philosophies in your thought process. And you know, I'm telling you these things because I believe they work. We've never done it differently. And I think that only happened because we chose a path to totally focus on what people want and need. I'll probably say that 15 more times today, because you can come away with one thing today. Actually, you need to come away with two things today. One is that it is about your clients, and two, how do you get your staff to understand that as well? So your decision should be based, or not be based, with money as your motivation. Your marketing should be based on defining who you are, defining your reputation, defining what your true goals are. I mean, you're all great people. People who go into veterinary medicine have very deep feelings and are very passionate, and we forget that sometimes when we get wrapped up in this, I need more money. You'll never make the right long-term decision with money as your motivator. Always showcase, my opinion, showcase the things that you do modestly. If you look at the sports world or the entertainment world, different people attract different kinds of fans. Some people are attracted to the obnoxious, conceited, egotistical sport athlete, and some aren't. The fact is, the majority of fans do not like the egotistical, egocentric sports hero. The majority of the population, the kind of people that we want to work with, they like excellence with modesty. That's how we think about marketing our abilities. If I'm asked to speak somewhere, other than here, because I've been specifically asked to talk about our company, I never talk about Red Bank. I never talk about how big, I never talk about that at all. When I speak to students, I never bring it up. Excellence with modesty is a great way to market. The other thing that I found really helpful, and not expensive, by the way, because I think that's somewhat important. I've always been kind of put off by big displays, big advertising. But you can approach, especially on a smaller level, you can really get a lot of attention from charities. Now, what I don't mean is you just send a check somewhere to donate. You pick who those charities are, and you have a presence, whether it's in a bulletin book. I assume you have charity benefits. We're in every single charity benefit in New Jersey. You cannot go to a charity benefit and not see a page, a modest page, by the way, that we're part of that. And we looked at what charities are most successful, and you probably know this, are children charities and animal charities. That's it. On an occasion, I can be talking to donating to student funds. I'm also not a big supporter of that. And these people are going to become professionals and have a living. I'm not sure that free loans is an option. But now with the economy and the price of school, maybe it is. You can't go wrong being visible. And if you can, but not necessary, be at those charitable events. Again, this is not something that's going to make you successful overnight. When people see you not bragging, but saying, hey, I want to help the community. I want to help the people that aren't as lucky. And by the way, let's talk about that for 1 second. We're all struggling. We'll have money issues. But we're all pretty lucky. Right? You guys in the profession you want to be in. You have jobs. You're doing things for people. That's pretty good. Make a lot of your marketing things that solve people's problems, make things easier. That marketing should include things that would make their life easier or make veterinary care easier for them. And don't sell them something they don't need. Boy, right? I just hate that. And as far as professions go, we probably don't do it as much as others, but it's still in there. So what I can help you with, because cultures are different, cultures within our country are different, cultures within your country are different. When you make these decisions, you need to make it based on what the culture is that you live in. What are the likes? What are the dislikes? What are the things that can help the community? What are the things the community really doesn't care about? You need to find that out. You know who you can find that out from? Your employees. Talk to them. You know, for the smaller practices that involve a smaller community, find out what's going on. Find out if there's a family who's had a crisis. We're big on that. You know, and forever we've been big on that. We had a huge opportunity recently with the hurricane. You probably don't know about it, but we had a very rare event in the U.S. where most hurricanes come up the coast, and New Jersey gets a little bit, and really up in Connecticut and New York gets hit pretty bad because I don't have a map, but the coast kind of goes this way. Well, there's three different. I don't know anything about weather, but evidently there's three different things going on at once, and the hurricane literally took a 90-degree left-hand turn at the center of New Jersey. We still had about 4 hours to do something. A lot of people didn't. And so it wasn't so much the hurricane, but it pushed this massive wave that totally destroyed thousands of homes within a very short distance into the coast. Maybe, I have to calculate meters to feet. Probably about 100 meters, 150 meters. Devastation. There were multi-million-dollar homes they're not destroyed, they're gone. Just gone. And I used to go down that way every summer as a kid, and to drive down there now and see these homes. I mean, some of our past presidents have lived in those homes. So that was an opportunity to do a lot of free work. That's great marketing, but not bragging about it. We had another situation that actually kind of went international. And I was a reg, and it was kind of neat because my entire staff knew what to do. There was some legal issue, not bad, just a decision that had to be made. But massive media, TV was in the parking lot every day for 3 or 4 weeks. It was abuse. I mean, abuse dogs happen all the time. Why this one case took off, I have no idea. But I used to criticize other places, especially universities would have a special case, a police dog, and they would raise money to pay for it, and then charge the full amount. I always thought that was kind of a hypocrisy. So you get this famous police dog that got shot in the line of duty, and you're raising money, and you actually charge like $10,000 to take care of this dog. So we weren't about to do that, and we actually did not ask for donations. We got $80,000 worth of donations. We didn't use any of it. We did everything for free. We got more action on Facebook and whatever the other ones are. I'm not in charge of that stuff. And about that, we didn't charge. Actually, some from the veterinary profession, thanks for making us look good. Actually, we just had to take care of the dog. It was emaciated, and there's no major diseases. Because it's so visible, we did every test in the world, though. We didn't want to say it was a 13-year-old Cocker Spaniel, literally bones. The nutritious, you know, as an Italian, I wanted to feed it like pasta and meatballs and everything. But the nutrition actually, it was amazing to me because the dog was underfed for a while. You guys probably know more about the science. But it was interesting that we gave it less calories than it needed, and then slowly over time built it up. So it wasn't a big cost, but you can imagine the kind of positive marketing that one event has done It won't last forever. But what it does, it got people to say, hey, who is this place? Let me go try it out. So charitable stuff, from my point of view, it's the right thing to do, right? It is the right thing to do, but it's a marketing opportunity at the same time. Talked about that. Social media, we pay someone to do that. I hate it, but you have to do it. I mean, I think in computer-wise, Europe is probably somewhat more advanced than we are in the use of it. And I got to tell you, I'm the guy who has to sit here and admit that, yeah, it does work. I don't get it. I always like talking to a person, but it works and it's needed. Bottom line is people have lots of choices in your country and my country. What are you doing different than your competitor? What are you doing for the community? What are you doing for the world? How are you making the place better? Besides not fixing dogs, but making dogs better. In America, fixing dogs is, I guess, staying dogs. Right? You know, when you talk about this stuff, these are the kinds of things that I mentioned this morning. It's one thing to, let's just assume for a moment that you all agree with me. And there's no reason why you should or you shouldn't, but let's just make an assumption. Just doing it's not enough. You have to believe it. Because your staff have to believe that you believe it. Your staff can't think you're just doing it because, hey, we can make money. And one of the toughest questions I get, which has nothing to do with this conference, but I'm going to bring it up anyway. One of the toughest questions I get is, why are you successful? And I don't know the answer to that. Because the rules that we follow have been written in books for years and years and years. They've always been there. I've done nothing unique. I've done nothing special. I've done nothing intellectual. I've been thrown out of more schools than you can imagine. You gotta believe. You have to believe you're making decisions because you're doing the right thing for your customer and for your community. So, a lot of that stuff we talked about helps get people to come to your hospital. How bad would it be if you did this great charitable thing, you did this great thing for the community, and you got 20 new clients, and they came to a really bad hospital? You don't want to do that, trust me. The marketing, outside marketing, is the last thing you want to do before everything else works. So, again, not typically thought of marketing, how your staff behaves in your business is your strongest, most powerful marketing tool that you have. And we overlook it, I'm including myself, we overlook it on a daily basis. We overlook at the power and the potential that we have right in front of us, that we pay, we're already paying them, I hope, and we don't utilize it. In a very modest way, besides, and this is more for the next talk on how we get our employees to perform that way, but you want in some modest way to let people know what's new, what you're working on. And as I said, everything's about perception. We did not develop a nutrition department because we thought we'd make a lot of money. You won't. We didn't do a nutrition department because we couldn't survive without one. And we didn't do a nutrition department because we thought everybody would use a nutritionist. We did it because it says that Red Bank cares about every part of your pet. And if you need this service, we have it. But we don't make them use the service. Those are marketing tactics that work, but even Perry couldn't give you a formula to tell you how much money you made on that. But what happens when people talk about you, inevitably a topic will come up, and someone will say, oh yeah, well, Red Bank has that. I've never used it, but they have that. That second person may not ever use a nutritionist, but they'll think about coming to Red Bank because that's pretty cool. It's about building who you are and defining what your commitment is to the rest of the world, to the rest of your clients. Once you do the right kind of outside marketing, you will be able to make visible. It's one thing to brag about how good you are. It's another thing to brag about how many other places you've helped out. You don't have to brag. You just have to read it. Go, wow. These guys care about children who have certain diseases or whatever. I can't say this enough times. No matter what the scenario is, from vaccines to euthanasia, you need to train your team to make the experience as excellent as possible. Walt Disney-like. Okay? Even, I tell students one of the most important things you do as veterinarians, medically speaking, is euthanasia. It's the most emotionally close thing you will do with your client. It's the most difficult thing you will do with your client. And you never do anything wrong. Never make them wait. Never rush them through it. If they don't pay, don't worry about it. We stopped charging for euthanasia years ago. I mean, you just wake up one day and go, how can I charge my client who's been with me for 15 years to put their dog to sleep? And not to be cruel, but what great marketing is that? That you care enough not to charge them to put their dog to sleep after they paid you for 15 years of being a faithful customer. Now, if I don't know how you dispose of pets here, but if they choose to go to a private place and have the cremation, then yes, we charge them. But the act of euthanasia, which doesn't cost you much, right? Time. Time's valuable, but if you look at it as marketing time, it's pretty inexpensive. Big priority. Every part of the experience, from the person who answers the phone call to the doctor, and the most important event for a client, for me for marketing purposes, the most important event is the discharge. When they leave. Why is that? Because they pay. I'm assuming they pay at the end of the visit. You don't want to make that ugly. You don't want to make that, let me answer this phone 17 more times before I take care of it. You think that's a little thing? I guarantee you right now that you have lost clients without knowing because you did not do a good job at discharging. I know every one of you thinking, yeah, you're right. You've just taken up an hour plus of their time. Now you're going to charge them money. You don't want that to be a bumpy experience, a bad experience. This is marketing. This is the strongest form of marketing in the world, and it doesn't cost a penny. There is no excuse for anybody to have a veterinary license who doesn't recognize the importance of making their client happy. In my opinion, the number one priority is to take care of your client. Taking care of the dog is easy. You're the mechanic, remember? You know what to do. You don't need to have the client there to do those things. You owe it to those people you're charging money. You owe it to the people that are paying you to give them this kind of marketing. Something that I think even AHA talks about. And by the way, for AHA, I didn't know this, but I was told today that they agree that drugs should not be a place, and I think I've been told they're actually preaching that we shouldn't be overcharging for drugs, and I think that's great. We're guilty of this in my hospital. We don't confirm next appointments. And I'm not sure how I feel about this yet, but I'm in the minority. I can tell you that most advisors in the U.S. really try to get you to, because my dentist does, I can't get out of there until I put that next appointment. It doesn't bother me. If I don't go, I don't go. I just do it to get out. But if you go by percentages, 50% of us do go back. They got to call me about 16 times, but for the rest of us, for the responsible consumer, now don't make them take an appointment if they don't need an appointment. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm really against trickery. But if they really need an appointment, make the appointment. If they say, Jim, I'm not sure, just say, you know what, let's make it. You can always change it. Because you're going to have a great operator after today. And so going back to change it won't be difficult, right? Because that's the first thing you're going to work on. Long-term marketing is not as critical, but it is important. And last but not least, this is actually where you come into play. This is where you can mess up. Because the bottom line is, I've actually heard a higher percentage than I've been told, but I'm going to go with my percentage. I don't believe in percentages anyway. But you got to go with something. Excuse me. About 70, especially in general practice, you'll understand that clearly this is not true for the specialty client. 75% of walks in the door, if you just pet them, they'll be fine in 2 weeks. They don't need medicine, they don't need treatment. They don't. This is not sarcasm, this is true. I mean, how many here go to the doctor every time they're sick? I expected no hands and there are no hands. But what do people do with their pets? They limp for 2 hours and they're coming in. And you say, okay, go home. And it gets better. And you tell them you did something magical and they'll believe you. So long-term retention, so the point I'm getting to is people figure you out because eventually they're going to have a serious crisis that needs you to help or it won't get better. And you have to make sure that you are medically competent. And the point of this is medical competency is 3 on the list. If you look at all conventional, and sometimes old stuff is true forever, and I don't think this will change until computers change it somehow, virtual doctors. Availability, affability, which is good client service, and ability is the order of importance in a successful business. Ability is number 3. And it's the third part of marketing, long-term retention. Most general practitioners lose cases because they screw up the complicated ones. Or, and my sense is, not in knowledge, but in the way the profession is, you're probably, I see you guys being about 15 years behind us. Not in knowledge, don't misunderstand me. But what I mean by that is, when I think about when I opened my practice, people didn't want to refer to a specialist. They saw it as lost business. But as time progressed, and let's assume for all of us the economy changes, general practitioners lost more clients by not referring than they did by referring. Why? Because when you're stuck and there's an option out there and your client finds out from a friend, and by the way, you'll get mad at the specialist when in fact you're the problem. Right? You're the ones who brought that situation. So don't be calling up the specialist and say, hey, why'd you do this? Now, if they steal the case from you, I'd let them have it. Because they should return it to you. Think about it as a consumer. Take yourself out of the practice and say, okay, I love my dog, he's really sick. This woman, whatever, is not making it better. And now my friend says I have another option. What has that done to your character, your reputation, and what you are as a company? Now, on the flip side, for those of you who are specialists, when you get a case, assuming the dog is a cat or exotics, I know there's an exotics person in the mention. Right there. I'm being in trouble if I didn't say that, right? As long as that animal is not dying in front of you, you make sure you say, wow, you have a brilliant general practitioner to recognize that you need a specialist. You've got to work together with this. If you work together with this, you'll build a nice specialty system. You'll build more revenues for yourself because when you're the one who refers to the specialist, you will get that case back and you'll have more things to do with that case because it's a serious problem. But more important, as a general practitioner, what have you done? You've built a stronger bond, not less of a bond. Sending your client to someone else who knows better is a respectful thing. So let's go back to motivation. What was the motivation for not sending them? I'll answer this question. Money. What did I say was the worst reason to make a decision based on money? For me, investing in my company and choosing things that make it successful are long-term, sustainable things, not a quick buck, quick dollar, euro. Other things that I think are great, long-term retention, and I think it is good because I can tell you within my practice, this is a human nature thing. We're all guilty. I've heard a million different numbers, but you have to tell somebody, I'll give you all the different statistics, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times before they get it. It's human nature. So I think one strategy that is ethical is to make sure that your name comes across their pathway several times, even if they don't need an appointment. I don't care how you do that. You know, no matter what size or level you're at, there's some way you can do that, whether you have an open house twice a year. One of the many things we do that doesn't cost much, and you can even develop a relationship with a specialist or not a specialist, and have lectures to the public. Have lectures directed at your customers. I mean, would we all agree that our customers love their pets? Can we all? Yes, right? Well, I didn't see any head shaking, but I'm going to tell you they do. They love their pets. And if they can come to hear a doctor or a nurse talk about emergency care that you can do at home or on your way to the hospital, or talk about skin problems, you have coffee and cake, or tapas. Huge. Costs you whatever the coffee is, and now you have 5, maybe 20 people who now say, hey, you know what my vet does? And we practically that 0. Not only that, but it's one of those things that it's a win for everybody. There's nothing sneaky. It's not a trick. You're doing something pretty neat for somebody. Excuse me. This slide will kind of bring us into the next one. We talk about building your team. Use your staff. You know, this isn't another lecture of mine, but I think it's worth saying. I hear a lot, well, I always hear there's problems in my hospital, and the next word is always it's somebody else. It's never you, the boss. Oh, you can't trust people. One of the hardest things I learned in life, you can go that way and not trust anybody, and I guarantee you, you shouldn't trust anybody. If you go through life and trust everybody, you'll get the most out of the best, and you'll have a couple of people that'll, you can't use that word, will do something bad. But a tiny minority. That's government thinking, right? Let's impact everybody who's doing good because this one person did bad. We do it too. If you trust everybody, trust your staff. They are people that have had a life, they've had experiences. Let them share them. Find out what they think they want to see you do marketing. Never criticize them. It doesn't mean you have to use every idea. You know, there's simple ways of saying things. You know, great idea, but let's try this one first. And even if they don't come up with great ideas, you start the process of building a great team. So we help people solve their problems. The charities, organizations, lectures you can give to the public. Be more than just a veterinarian. Because when you think about it, you're part of society. You're taking money from society. Sure, you're making, well, maybe we're making a profit. But still, they're trusting you with their pets. They're giving you money to do it. I think it's important for us as a profession to not forget to help the community. And I'll read this word for word. Building your business should not be at the expense of your client or your community or the world. It should be a benefit and a contribution. Your decisions on what you do should be a benefit or contribution, not a way to extract money or an expense or waste time. This is not always possible. And what's important in the world is not perfection. What's important is to have the right motivation driving your decisions. It is so simple, guys, and yet we make it complicated. And I know it's a leap of faith, but I needed this lecture too. And I had a sense that this was all true, everything I told you. But it wasn't until I went to a conference of very famous people who were very successful, and they said the same thing. So I had to believe, stop worrying about money. And when we stopped worrying about money is when we really took off. And actually, we really never did think about money. We were so excited about what we were doing. It really was never an issue. Now, in today's world, money is an issue, but it shouldn't change the motivation. If you worry about money, you need to generate more money, but the motivation should be the things we're talking about, not just the sake of making money. And it doesn't mean you should never raise your prices. I can't tell you, and I will not tell you whether you should lower your prices, but I will tell you, if all this stuff isn't being done well, do that first. And, you know, the one thing I promise you, doesn't help with the money, you'll be much happier at your job. You won't lose sleep at night. You won't be cursing your employees and your colleagues. You'll be a better person. You know, some of the things I would think about doing, by the way, and then I'll, time? Okay, so one last sentence, totally unrelated, but I think important. You know, this wasn't easy for me. You know, it's easy to get up here now and show you what we've done. It wasn't magic, it wasn't my skill, and it definitely was not my intelligence. Two things, one we're going to talk about is I have incredibly phenomenal people working for me. That's why we're successful, not because of me. I'll take credit for understanding I needed better people than me, but that's where my credit ends. And number two, for yourself, to get your head right, do something. Do something that is significant for you to do. I've worked in and run a cancer camp for children for 24 years now. I take no credit for that, by the way. It's all selfish. It's all self-motivated. Because I came back a better person. I realized how lucky I was. And another question I'm asked often, for the first time I was asked it, I was really taken aback. Someone said to me, what motivates you? And I think about what I've been through. I mean, we almost went bankrupt 3 or 4 times. It's not been easy. But we followed our principles. And by doing things and recognizing other people's lives, you realize how lucky you are. And for me, one of the things I've learned is the best thing that can happen is waking up in the morning. Because you have another day to do something good. Some people don't wake up the next morning. I use that. I'm not saying you should use that for your thing, but it works for me. I'll tell you. When I know I have another day to do something, it makes the bad stuff seem pretty insignificant. And if you can get in that frame of mind, if you can stay in the frame of mind that we talked about when you walked in the door for the first time to listen to me, whether you think I'm crazy or not, you were hoping it would be good. Work becomes really easy. So I'm going to end there because I think what's going to really be helpful is the last lecture with more detail. So any questions about any of this stuff? Anybody?